Translation edited by Chinyu. Fame knows no bounds, business opportunities are limitless, learning is infinite, and wisdom is vast. Just as steel becomes harder with an increase in carbon content, people become wiser with the growth of wisdom. Knowledge is acquired, while wisdom is cultivated. Knowledge is a summary of experience. Wisdom is a product of thought. Knowledge represents the branches, twigs, and leaves. Wisdom is the fragrant flowers and abundant fruits. Archimedes used his wisdom to repeatedly thwart the powerful Roman army's advances. Bill Gates, through his wisdom, ushered humanity into the age of networking. The Buddha remains immortal through his wisdom, and Jesus shines with a divine halo because of his wisdom. Oh, wisdom! You are the symbol of strength, the source of wealth, the bridge to the mysterious, and the touchstone for distinguishing truth from falsehood. You are both the fierce storm and the bright spring sun, both the weapon of the devil and the arm of the angel, both the olive branch that transforms swords into plowshares and the smoke of war in times of chaos. A mind without wisdom is like a barren desert, pale and desolate. A mind with wisdom is like a beautiful landscape, full of splendor. Nature is mesmerizing and captivating due to its ever-changing phenomena. People are admirable for their rich wisdom. Seeking wealth is not as valuable as seeking wisdom. Wealth is lifeless, while wisdom is alive. Wealth may disperse when a person dies, but wisdom shines even more brightly upon one's death. Wealth can be stolen, lost, or robbed, but wisdom always accompanies its owner, illuminating their life. Wisdom is boundless and inexhaustible. By engaging in deep thought and research, wisdom emerges from all phenomena. Through meditation and reflection, wisdom can arise at any time and place. Wisdom can transform decay into magic, give wings to thought, serve as the lever to move the earth, and act as the rainbow spanning time and space. It is the warm sun in winter, the cool breeze in summer, the flowers of spring, the fruits of autumn, the oasis in the desert, the willows in the Gobi, the torch rising in the darkness, and the scattered islands in the vast ocean. People become great because of wisdom, broad-minded due to wisdom, rich in depth because of wisdom, and have a promising future due to wisdom. Conversely, people are impoverished due to a lack of wisdom, incomprehensible because of a lack of wisdom, drifting and unstable because of a lack of wisdom, and their life and life become dull and colorless without wisdom. The source of wisdom comes from the greatest creator. Only by following the way of the greatest creator can one cultivate boundless wisdom. Wisdom that benefits humanity originates from reverence for the greatest creator, reverence for life, and reverence for nature. Wisdom that harms humanity stems from selfishness, greed, and lawlessness. The chapter of wisdom is but a small wave on the ocean of wisdom. Like the chapter of Revelations, its purpose is to inspire the thinking of Chanyuan celestials, guiding everyone into the magnificent palace of wisdom, appreciating the vast gentleness of the ocean of wisdom, experiencing the expansive brilliance of the space and time of wisdom, and climbing toward the highest realm of life and life under the illumination of the light of wisdom. Along the way, let us gather the pearls of happiness and extend our lives to the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. 石头渡河, crossing the river as stones. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyu. Under the golden sunlight, the sky was vast, with light clouds drifting and a gentle breeze blowing. A great river sparkled as it flowed slowly. To the east of the river lay a boundless sandy beach, barren and lifeless, with only a few foxes coming to drink from the river in the evening. Occasionally, a lizard could be seen scurrying across the scorching pebbles in search of food, and crabs would sometimes crawl ashore, glance around, and then quickly dive back into the water. On the west side of the river, the scene was entirely different. Instead of a sandy beach, there was a lush wetland filled with herds of cattle and sheep, cranes dancing in the sky, frogs leaping about, and fish and shrimp swimming freely. The river was the boundary, and the scenery on either side was as different as heaven and earth, utterly contrasting. Whenever a light drizzle fell, white mist would spread, or when the clouds reflected the setting sun and a rainbow appeared faintly, a young stone on the eastern shore, named Shirtu, would fall into deep thought. He longed for the scenery on the other side and was tired of the lifeless sandy beach where his family had lived for generations. He wanted to go to the other side, to enjoy the beautiful scenery on the west bank. One day, a torrential rainstorm mixed with hail came pouring down from the sky, causing little Shitta's back to ache. He could no longer bear it and began to run wildly on the sandy beach, shouting as he ran, "I want to go to the other side! I want to go to the other side!" After the rain stopped and the sky cleared, everything became tranquil again, but the sandy beach was in an uproar. Someone has a wild idea of going to the west side. Poor child, he must be crazy. Ignorance, sheer ignorance. What foolishness! This guy's brain is not normal. He should be sent to a mental hospital for treatment. Whose child is this? How can he talk such nonsense? He should be locked up in prison. We can't let him confuse people with his wild talk. We need to strengthen basic education, or the order of this great sandy beach will be disrupted by such delusional people. Finally, the ancient stone on the beach spoke up. We must hold a grand assembly for all the stones on the beach and invite our esteemed and wise scholars to educate the younger generation and save them from these wayward thoughts. The young stone who wanted to go to the other side was surrounded, and the wise stones began to bombard him with their wisdom. You want to go to the west side? Isn't that just wishful thinking? Have you ever heard of a stone crossing the river? Child, we can't entirely blame you. We elders haven't given you enough basic education. You must understand that if a stone tries to cross the river, it will inevitably drown. The weight of stones is greater than the buoyancy of the river's water, so stones cannot float on water. The conclusion is, stones cannot cross the river. Don't indulge in fantasies. Accept your fate. Stones are not birds. We cannot reach the other side. Poor little Shirtu was completely confused by the well-meaning education. He hung his head, tears welling up in his eyes, muttering only one sentence, "I just want to go to the west side," as he silently withdrew from the crowd to live in solitude. One day, a few stones of the same age came to find him. They also yearned for the life on the west side. They came to the riverbank and gazed at the picturesque scenery on the other side, and began to chatter excitedly among themselves. To cross the river, it's best to take a boat. To cross the river, it would be best if we could fly like birds. To cross the river, it would be best to ride on the back of a crab. To cross the river, it would be best if we hollowed out our insides. To cross the river, it would be best if a strong wind could carry us over to the other side. As they were fervently discussing, a few boys came by and stopped beside them. They were humans, perhaps drawn by the stone's strong will. One of the boys said to his companions, "Let's have a contest to see who can throw a stone across the river so that it skims the water's surface and reaches the other side." In an instant, these boys eagerly picked up stones at their feet and hurled them toward the other side of the river. Whoosh, swoosh, whoosh. One after another, the little stones skimmed the water's surface and flew across to the other side. Rumors quickly spread across the great sandy beach. Did you hear? It's said that those disobedient boys insisted on crossing the river and all drowned. Exactly. How could a stone possibly cross the river? It's no surprise they drowned. From now on, everyone must be vigilant. We must not allow fanciful ideas to take root, and we must prevent our children from going near the river. Living within our means is the key to a safe life. We stones can never cross the river. As the old saying goes, if you don't listen to the elders, you'll drown in the river. Can stones cross the river? Can humans reach the celestial island's continent? 我的6个小时上哪去了? Where did my 6 hours go? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyu. Everyone has 24 hours in a day, or so we think. But hold on a moment, on April 30th, 2005, I only had 18 hours. Where did my other 6 hours go? On the evening of April 29th at 7 p.m., to make it easier to understand, I'll use rounded times. I boarded a Zimbabwean Airlines flight to Beijing. After an overnight flight, I arrived at Beijing International Airport at 12 p.m. on April 30th, a total flight time of 17 hours. Here's where things get tricky. 12 p.m. on April 30th was the time on my watch, but Beijing time was already 6 p.m. To keep things simple, I had to adjust my watch to 6 p.m. And just like that, I ended up with only 18 hours on April 30th, with 6 hours that should have belonged to me disappearing. So, where did they go? Of course, this was caused by the time zone difference. But regardless, in terms of human conceived time, I only lived 18 hours that day. Now let's speculate. The time difference is caused by horizontal space. Different horizontal spaces have different times. As long as we move from one space to another, we will inevitably gain or lose time. Using Earth as the origin, let's draw a coordinate axis. The x-axis represents the east, the y-axis represents the west, the n-axis represents the north, and the s-axis represents the south. Now, if we travel eastward along the x-axis, we will lose time. If we travel westward, we will gain time. For example, if we fly from Beijing to Zimbabwe in one day, we could have 30 hours that day. If we travel northward or southward, we neither gain nor lose time. Interesting, isn't it? Let's think further. Traveling from Zimbabwe to Beijing in one day results in a loss of 6 hours. If we take 2 days to get to Beijing, how many hours will we lose? Still 6 hours, of course. By analogy, even if it takes a year to get to Beijing, the lost time is still 6 hours. Here's a fascinating question. If we could travel from Harare to Beijing in 1 hour, we would still lose 6 hours. So what if we could do it in 1 second? Naturally, we would still lose 6 hours. Losing 6 hours in 1 second seems like a bad deal. But wait, what is lost may actually be gained. We would gain negative time, which belongs to the realm of the non-material world, a topic for another day. Now, imagine losing 24 hours in a single day. What would happen? If you fly eastward from Harare along the x-axis and return to Harare within 24 hours, you would end up losing an entire day. If you depart on the 1st, after just 24 hours of flight, you wouldn't arrive on the 2nd but on the 3rd. As a result, a year would no longer have 365 days but 364. Even more interestingly, what if we flew like this every day? If we had a fast enough flying tool, we could reduce an entire year of 365 days to just 1 day. By analogy, we could reduce 1,000 years to a day, 10,000 years to a day, or even 100,000 years to a day. Similarly, if we flew westward along the y-axis, we could extend a single day into 100,000 years. Simple reasoning, once it exceeds people's imagination, becomes profound theory. When science surpasses people's understanding, it turns into superstition. Life-Genuine's 36-dimensional spaces have both surpassed people's imagination and transcended their understanding. So they have become an absurdity, and people view them as an intangible theory. If we can compress a day into 18 hours or compress a year into 1 day, why can't we compress 100,000 years into 1 day? Similarly, if we can expand a day to 30 hours or stretch a day into 365 days, why can't we expand a day into 100,000 years? Flying along the x-axis, we can reach the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world. Flying along the y-axis, we can reach the Elysium world. Flying along the n-axis and s-axis, we can only reincarnate in place, stuck in a loop. We need speed. With speed, stones can cross rivers, and humans can reach the celestial island's continent. A carriage is faster than walking, a car is faster than a carriage, and an airplane is faster than a car. A spaceship is faster than an airplane, but even if we could sit on a light-speed spaceship, it would still be too slow. So, what kind of flying tool should we use? Think about it. If we constantly ponder the mysteries of heaven and earth, the wondrous truths will one day reveal themselves. I want to ask everyone, what kind of person do you think Xiefeng is? Kongling Xiu. Emptiness, spirit, grace. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. The void holds myriad phenomena, and within the void, myriad phenomena exist. When the mind is empty, spiritual energy arises. When spirit arises, a person becomes graceful. Chanyuan celestials, born from spiritual mountains, embody emptiness, spirit, and grace, filling the heavenly garden. The masses are weighed down, their hearts filled with rubbish. Though they appear lively, they are actually confused beings. They have ears but do not listen. They have eyes but do not see. I have just said 1, and they continue with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All I can do is shake my head and sigh. Stones do not bloom, yet the sky creates colorful clouds. Fruits ripen and decay, yet the empty land can grow crops. An empty house is useful, and an empty heart reveals a bright celestial realm. Empty your heart, throw away yourself, and clarity will emerge. When flowers are fragrant, butterflies come naturally. When the mind is calm, thoughts flow effortlessly. When the body is clean, illness departs on its own. When the heart is pure, celestial beings arrive. As long as the heart is empty, the true result will naturally come early. Fear of death, fear of poverty, fear of loneliness, fear of solitude, all arise because the heart is not empty. Worry, anger, madness, hatred, all stem from an unemptied heart. Anxiety, fear, terror, and dread come from a heart that is not empty. Desiring to stand out, to bring honor to one's ancestors, to dominate the world, to leave a legacy, all are signs of a heart that is not empty. When the heart is not empty, everything becomes empty. When seeking to possess, in the end, nothing is gained. The principle is simple, but practicing it is as difficult as reaching heaven. Emptiness allows possession of all things, while non-emptiness is like chasing fleeting clouds. Whatever you think about will come as long as your mind is sincere. Whatever you fear will come as long as your mind is restless. Do not be a good person, nor a bad person. Do not do good deeds, nor evil deeds. Do not seek truth, nor falsehood. Return to your true nature, for true nature is the nature of the Tao. Entering the Tao brings life. The Tao is empty, and it controls all beings. Buddha is empty, and Buddhist laws govern the universe. Oh, humans, if your hearts are not empty, how can you attain the Tao and become a Buddha? Throughout history, sages have sought emptiness and ultimately accomplished their lives. Common people have always sought gold and ended up with an illusory life. Mountains have spirit and vegetation flourishes. Waters have spirit and fish and turtles abound. The sky has spirit and the weather is favorable. The earth has spirit and all things thrive. Humans have spirit and their charm is infinite. Oh, humans, quickly seek spirit. Without spirit, one is no better than an earthworm. Greed, laziness, anger, and hatred all arise because spirit has not touched the heart. Poverty and suffering throughout life also stem from a heart without spirit. Seeking spirit is not difficult. Just enter Life Genuine, and the method is simple. Fill your heart with the knowledge of the greatest creator. The most beautiful people in the world are in Life Genuine. Foshan, Taiji, Penglai celestials are flawless. Bailing, Wanyan, Qianyan celestials shine with a spiritual light. Xianhe, Lingji, Shueshan celestials are like treasure mountains. In the world, who can compare to the celestials of Chanyuan? Wherever there is spirit, there is grace. The bright moon shines among the pine trees, and the clear spring flows over the rocks. The gentle breeze blows, colorful clouds fill the sky. The warm sun paints the forest shade, and the reefs and sea waves harmonize, creating scenes that resemble the images of heaven shared by Wanyan celestial. Grace is fragrant and alluring, captivating the soul. Grace is like a celestial peach, tempting to the taste. I love grace, the graceful wilderness, the graceful rivers and streams, the graceful blue sky, and the graceful people. Grace is not heavy makeup, but simple elegance. Grace is not flamboyant, but simple and pure. Grace is not a storm, but a gentle drizzle. Grace is not fiery passion, but a love that cannot be severed. To live among the Chanyuan celestials is to live within grace, lightly loving, deeply longing. If you wish to become a celestial, strive to find the space of emptiness, spirit, and grace. If you wish to become a celestial, you must plan your life around emptiness, spirit, and grace. If you wish to become a celestial, spread your love to the world. If you wish to become a celestial, join in building Life Genuine. 务虚与务实 Balancing the abstract and the concrete. Xiefeng, July 12, 2005. Translation edited by Qinyu. Abstract refers to the non-material, intangible, elusive, unseen, unheard, untouchable, and without a trace. Concrete refers to substances that are tangible, practical, and can be seen, heard, touched, and traced. The abstract belongs to the realm of the spirit and mind. The concrete belongs to the realm of physical existence and practical use. Focusing on the abstract means pursuing ideals and beliefs, adhering to faith and morality, emphasizing consciousness and spirit, and elevating character and quality. Focusing on the concrete means pursuing practical value, primarily aiming to fulfill the material conditions necessary for basic survival, such as food, clothing, shelter, transportation, sexual desire, and safety. The lower a life's level, the more it focuses on the concrete. The more it focuses on the concrete, the lower the quality of life. Focusing on the concrete is for survival. The higher a life's level, the more it focuses on the abstract. The more it focuses on the abstract, the higher the quality of life. Focusing on the abstract is for living. The abstract and the concrete are opposites yet unified. Neither should be neglected. Survival is the foundation for better living. Living is the sublimation for better survival. To walk the way of the greatest creator, one must balance both the abstract and the concrete. The concrete ensures survival, while the abstract elevates the quality of life, leading to a higher level of existence. The concrete provides the conditions for focusing on the abstract, and the abstract fulfills the qualities of a celestial being. Ordinary people are ordinary primarily because they focus on the concrete all their lives, neglecting the abstract. Those who go to extremes in spiritual practice, neglecting the issues of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, safety, and sexual desire, mainly focus on the abstract while neglecting the concrete. The wise are those who appropriately balance the abstract and the concrete, neglecting neither. Celestial beings are those who have fully experienced life, solve the problem of survival, and then spend much of their time focusing on the abstract. Those who purely focus on the abstract are either gods or demons. There was a pig, deeply engrossed in reading. The other pigs in the pen couldn't understand and asked, "Brother, we have no worries about food and drink. Our master feeds us, and we live so freely and happily. Why bother yourself with reading and thinking?" The reading pig replied meaningfully, "If we don't read and think, we will always be pigs. If we don't read and think, we can only have contentment, not happiness. Contentment is short-lived, while happiness is long-lasting. Contentment comes from temporary satisfaction, while happiness comes from enduring peace of mind. Think about it. We spend our lives confined in this pig pen, with only a small patch of sky to look at, and just a few square meters to move around in. The worst part is that once we're fattened up, the slaughterhouse is our only destination. Thinking of this, I can't be content. To avoid this disaster, I must read. Forget it, brother. Live for today. We are pigs, after all, and slaughter is our fate. Accept it, the other pigs said. Brothers, you focus on the concrete and be content. I will focus on the abstract. I don't want to be a pig anymore. I want to become human because only humans can find true happiness, the reading pig said firmly. Can a pig become a human? Asked one thoughtful pig. The reading pig replied, yes, absolutely. Once I have human thoughts, I am no longer a pig but a human. Even if you have human thoughts, can you escape the disaster of being slaughtered? The pig continued to ask. The reading pig said decisively, the evolution from pig to human is gradual. In this life, I am still a pig, unable to avoid disaster, but in the next life, I won't be a pig anymore. I will become a human because the saints among humans say that the form of life corresponds to the way of thinking. If I have human thoughts, I will have a human form of existence. In fact, when I realize that I will be a human in the next life, I already feel a sense of happiness. Sometimes, I even hope the disaster comes quickly, so I can end this life as a pig and start living as a human. The reading pig continued speaking to the group of pigs. Brothers, in the next life, you will still be pigs, but I will appear before you in human form. Brother, you make sense? I want to be a human too. Being a pig truly doesn't bring happiness, the thoughtful pig said, as if having an epiphany. The reading pig quietly told it, while we have food and shelter, seize the time to focus on the abstract. If you don't focus on the concrete, you won't have a comfortable life, and poverty is unpleasant. If you don't focus on the abstract, the best you can hope for is to stay where you are. Pigs will remain pigs, and humans will remain humans. 避免小负荷能量的长期冲击. Avoid the long-term impact of small load energy. Xiefeng, February 14th, 2007. Translation edited by Qinyu. When studying metal materials, our teacher took us to the Zhangjiago Exploration Machinery Factory for a first-hand observation of metal material property testing. A series of testing machines were used to evaluate the tensile strength, compressive strength, bending strength, and other properties of various metals, determining the limit values of each characteristic. For example, a metal rod would be tested to see how much force it could withstand before breaking, or how long it could endure repeated small load impacts before eventually fracturing. I've forgotten the specific parameters, but I remember this. No matter how tough the metal, if subjected to continuous small load impacts, it will eventually break. This truly reflects the saying, "A rope saws through wood, and water drops pierce stone." Even seemingly insignificant forces, when applied consistently over time to an object, person, or principle, will eventually lead to a significant change. A one-time heavy blow can destroy a person, leaving them unable to recover. However, it is often the unnoticeable small load impacts that are the primary culprits in ruining a person's life. A tiny grain of sand in a shoe can stop someone from moving forward, and a small speck of dust in the eye can make it impossible to open. A bedridden loved one can cause someone to abandon their grand ambitions and plans, and a single point of pain in the body can instantly erode a person's confidence. A pure river can become polluted by one factory discharging a little sewage here and another factory dumping some waste there, eventually making the river impure. A clean street can become filthy if one person spits here and another person throws a bit of garbage there. A perfect natural environment can be degraded by one factory emitting smoke, another dumping trash, one car emitting carbon dioxide, and a refinery spilling waste oil. Eventually, nature will fall ill. A person with a healthy and positive mindset may lose their optimism after facing constant criticism, gossip, fault-finding, and nagging from others. Over time, they may lose their positivity and even begin to doubt themselves. An anthill, though small, can cause the collapse of a 1,000-mile-long dike if not blocked in time. A tiny pinhole in a gas pipe, if not discovered and repaired promptly, can lead to a catastrophic disaster. A seemingly harmless family thief who steals small amounts daily, if not caught and stopped in time, can eventually steal the entire household. In a harmonious group, a person who spreads rumors may seem harmless at first, but if not exposed and dealt with in time, they can turn harmony into conflict, causing the group to fall apart and leading to irreparable damage. As the saying goes, one rotten apple spoils the whole barrel. Life is not easy, but what usually breaks a person is not external difficulties or harsh conditions, but the constant impact of small load forces from within. It's not a single blow that drives someone to suicide, but rather the continuous small load impacts that lead to self-destruction. The Sutra of Land's Celestial Beings says, "Avoid anger at dawn. It harms the lungs and damages the liver." This means that one should not frequently lose their temper in the morning. A person who often feels upset in the morning will have shortness of breath and poor liver function, leading to a day of low energy or mental exhaustion. Therefore, within a family or group, members should avoid criticizing or nitpicking each other in the morning. Instead, they should encourage and uplift each other in the morning and save any dissatisfaction for the afternoon or evening. To prevent the continuous impact of small load energy, husbands and wives, parents and children, siblings, friends, and colleagues should avoid frequently criticizing and nitpicking each other. Long-term exposure to even a few hurtful words can lead to declining health, the collapse of family or business, broken relationships, lost confidence, and the destruction of a person's future and life. In life, one must maintain a positive, optimistic, and determined spirit. Even in the face of difficulties and adversity, one must not lose confidence and courage. As the saying goes, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, and heaven never seals off all the exits. Therefore, it is essential to avoid and guard against those who are often pessimistic and constantly nagging and spreading pessimistic views. My advice is to say goodbye to those who frequently criticize and nitpick, and goodbye to those who keep nagging and spreading pessimistic views, because they are the small load energies that may seem insignificant but can eventually break an iron rod. 仇人即是恩人还债之道. Enemies are benefactors, the path of repaying debts. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. The vast, distant heavens know my heart. The myriad gods in the darkness know my name. The operation of the sun and moon is aware of my deeds. The most just entity in the universe is the Tao of the greatest creator. This Tao sees everything with perfect clarity, rewarding and punishing with meticulous precision. When we calm our minds and reflect, we may wonder what causes us to be born into a specific family and environment, what leads us to our current circumstances, and why we encounter certain people, whether they should be in our lives or not. We often feel powerless against our present circumstances, as if we are drifting in the wind with no control over our destiny. All of this is due to the combination of causes and conditions, which may seem chaotic and random. Yet, in reality, everything we experience, whether in prosperity or adversity, happiness or suffering, is a result of our past words and actions, including those from previous lives. The outcomes we face today stem from the seeds we have sown in the past. You reap what you sow. If you want a life free of worries, cultivate yourself diligently. If we hadn't incurred karmic debts in this world, we wouldn't be here. A person's life is essentially a process of repaying debts. As long as these debts remain unpaid, we cannot leave this world. Without understanding this principle, one's life is bound to be lost in confusion, becoming just another ordinary existence among the masses. The wisest way to live is to repay one's debts to the greatest extent possible and to avoid incurring any new debts, which means doing only good deeds and avoiding wrongdoing. In human history, Jesus and Buddha Shakyamuni did this best. Jesus repaid his debts by sacrificing his blood and performing countless good deeds, even atoning for his disciples' sins. Buddha Shakyamuni spent decades teaching and enlightening countless sinners, filling the universe with his merits. They no longer owed any debts to the human world, which is why Jesus became a god and Shakyamuni became a Buddha. In the mythological novel Fengshen Yeni, The Investiture of the Gods, Neza tore out his intestines and carved out his bones to repay the debts he owed to his parents, ultimately reincarnating as a lotus flower and becoming a minor god in heaven. In the novel Journey to the West, the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, underwent 81 trials and tribulations to repay his debt to the monk Tang Sanzang, who had saved his life. Even when unjustly accused by Tang Sanzang after the incident with the white-boned demon, Sun Wukong, despite his anger, knelt to the monk, striving to repay his debt. Jesus taught us that if someone strikes us on the left cheek, we should turn the other cheek to them. Buddha Shakyamuni earnestly advised that if we are despised by the world, our previous sins will be eradicated. Even Mao Zedong taught that the humblest are often the wisest, while the noble are the most foolish. The celestial Laozi taught that to save and help someone, the Tao must first let them endure suffering. Now, let's consider how to repay our debts. We are born between heaven and earth, absorbing the essence of the sun and moon, the vitality of heaven and earth, and enjoying the caress of nature. Thus, we owe a debt to nature. To repay this, we need only be grateful and refrain from spoiling it. We live in society, protected by its laws and constitution, which means we owe a debt to society. To repay this, we must avoid opposing the government. Our life comes from the greatest creator, so we owe a debt to the greatest creator. To repay this, we must follow the way of the greatest creator. Our physical bodies come from our parents, whose love and care are as high as mountains and as deep as the sea. We owe them a debt, which we repay by dutifully honoring them. If we have a master who has enlightened us, guiding us onto the path of life, we owe them a debt, which we repay by expressing our gratitude. Other debts beyond these great obligations must be repaid precisely. Mere gratitude or thanks is insufficient. First, let's address the debts between spouses. Husband and wife are like birds in the same forest, but they fly apart when disaster strikes. When the end of life approaches, it's too late to repay debts. Therefore, we should endure more of our partner's frustrations during everyday life, giving them as much freedom as possible. Even if we end up with a green hat, infidelity, we shouldn't hold grudges or seek retribution. Instead, we should feel joyful. Why? Because such debts can be canceled, freeing us to follow our own path. Next are the debts owed to our children. Children are our creditors by nature, born into our families to collect their debts. We should repay these debts with no complaints, with wholehearted effort, and with joy. There's no room for bargaining. Just give without expecting anything in return. Whether or not they honor us is their business. The less filial they are, the more thoroughly we repay our debts. Even if we end up starving, dying of illness, or without anyone to bury us, we should accept it with no resentment. The humbler our death, the more honorable our life. Then there are the debts owed to siblings, relatives, friends, and strangers. We must strive to repay these debts promptly, without taking even the smallest advantage. As the saying goes, taking advantage of others is harmful, just like radishes are just vegetables. There's no such thing as a free lunch in the world. It is better to give more than to receive, and it is preferable to die without debts than to live a long life with them. Live as long as you can, but if you can't continue, simply sit cross-legged and quietly await the arrival of death and the welcoming of celestial beings. Lastly, we must repay the debts owed to poultry, livestock, and animals. We benefit from the kindness of animals, whether they bring us joy, help us with work, provide us with food, or supply us with materials for clothing, shelter, and transportation. Even though this is all part of creation's arrangement, a debt is still a debt. Humanity has not yet reached the greatness of being able to take the lives of animals at will. As seekers of the Tao, we regard all life equally, so we must repay our debts to them. How? By not mistreating any animal, big or small, and by not killing innocent animals unnecessarily. We should treat them with compassion and sympathy, offer them love, and when we eat their flesh, silently pray for their liberation from the cycle of reincarnation and wish them a swift rebirth in the Western Pure Land. If you do nothing that troubles your conscience during the day, you won't be startled if someone knocks on your door in the middle of the night. If you live your whole life without wronging others, you are destined to ascend to paradise. In addition to the ways mentioned above, there's another channel for repaying debts by treating your enemies as benefactors. If someone bullies, oppresses, abuses, or torments us, they are, in fact, helping us repay our debts through their wrongdoing. This is something to be welcomed. We should gratefully accept their actions. Benefactors are enemies, and enemies are benefactors. Benefactors keep us bound to the mortal world, while enemies help us break free from it. For those who seek the Tao, good is evil, and evil is good. Without others' evil, we cannot achieve our own goodness. The more foolish people there are, the more opportunities there are for us to become a celestial being or a Buddha. Repay debts in all aspects of life, and you will gain the Tao in all aspects. Abandon everything completely, and you will gain everything completely. Are seekers of the Tao foolish? The clearest and most astute minds belong to those who seek the Tao. 空间与仇恨, Space and Hatred. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. After the SARS epidemic, I overheard a conversation among a few people. One of them, a beautiful woman in her 30s, remarked, "How did this SARS just pass by? It would have been better if it had wiped out a few billion people." I asked her, "Why would you hope for billions to die from SARS?" She responded, "There are too many people. How can we survive?" This is a typical example of hatred caused by limited space. In a coop that can accommodate 10 chickens, if there are only 5 or 6, they will live in harmony. But if there are more than 10, violent conflicts between the chickens often occur. In an overcrowded mouse nest, you can often hear the sound of mice fighting. When there are too many bees in a hive, a queen bee will emerge, initiating a splitting activity. In a family, if the population grows too large, complaints and quarrels will inevitably occur, leading naturally to family division. A cramped living space will inevitably lead to hatred among living beings. If this hatred is not resolved in time, it will eventually result in murder. Bees can split and families can divide, but what happens when there is no more space to divide? In other words, although this Earth, which already holds 6.5 billion people, has not yet reached the critical point of mutual killing, The cramped space has already caused governments and citizens to feel an indescribable oppression. This is especially true in populous countries like China, where the fight for survival space begins in early childhood. This is why the woman at the beginning hoped that SARS could eliminate some of the population. Hatred caused by limited space can no longer be judged by moral standards of good and evil. Everyone wants to survive and hopes to live better. This desire for a better life inevitably leads to the plundering of resources and the occupation and invasion of space, which in turn causes pollution of water, land, and air. This pollution leads to a vicious cycle, further shrinking the living space. The smaller the space, the fiercer and more brutal the competition for survival. Humanity must find a solution. If not, plagues, wars, famine, disasters, earthquakes, and floods will accompany theft, robbery, kidnapping, occupation, and murder in quick succession. This is called nature. At the same time, there is another risk, which is the forced purification by divine beings. Years ago, I had a dog named Larry. After mating with a neighbor's dog, Larry gave birth to 11 puppies. Initially, the puppies ran around the yard, bringing vitality and joy, but as they grew, trouble followed. First, they fought over food, then their droppings were everywhere, and eventually, I could not walk through the yard. The 12 dogs competed for my attention, surrounding me so tightly that I couldn't move. Dogs are particularly jealous. To win my favor, they started biting each other. What was even worse was that once the door opened, they would rush out, scaring passers-by, especially children who would scream. I had no choice but to give away 6 of them. The remaining 6 were still not easy to handle. Although the number was reduced, the problems persisted. I had to give away a few more until only 3 were left, and the yard finally became peaceful. I concluded that my yard could only accommodate 3 dogs. Once the number exceeded 3, the number of dogs and the yard size did not match. For the dogs that were given away, they couldn't understand why I had to clean them out, but for me, I knew why I had to remove them from my yard. I was forced to implement a forced purification. In a large yard, keeping a few dogs is my choice, but dogs have their nature. They need to mate and reproduce. Preventing them from mating and reproducing is too cruel, but if they mate too often and have too many offspring, the space cannot accommodate them. The result is forced purification. Humans should be more rational than dogs and should be able to foresee crises. If everyone acts according to their own will, considering only the individual and not the whole, calculating only for the part and not planning for the whole, the result will be to force the divine beings to implement forced purification, to resolve the current crisis of overpopulation and limited space, and to avoid the mutual hatred among humans caused by limited space and the ensuing catastrophe. Humanity must live and produce according to the theories of life genuine. But this is just wishful thinking, a fantasy, even a delusion. What should be done? We must take a long-term view and lead those who understand the truth out of the narrow space of competition. As for the rest, leave it to fate. 信即真理，爱即生命. Faith is truth, love is life. Xiefeng, August 16, 2005. Translation edited by Qinyu. Faith is truth. In Article 57 of the chapter of Revelation, truth is explained as the way of the greatest Creator. Walking the way of the greatest Creator is walking the path of truth. However, this explanation might still seem vague and elusive, making the concept appear broad and mysterious. To bring it closer to reality and help us understand truth more clearly, I will express it differently. Truth is faith. Humanity has always pursued truth, and people often say, we must uphold the truth. Now, people should understand that truth is faith, and truth is the way of the greatest Creator. Faith is a state of resonance within the soul, a meticulous and rigorous thinking structure, a perfectly symmetrical system capable of instant reaction. Faith is an attribute of the greatest Creator, the essence of gods and Buddhas, the quality of celestial beings, and the pursuit of sages. Many people have saved themselves through faith. The New Testament of the Bible contains numerous examples illustrating this. As long as a person has genuine faith, any illness, whether blindness, leprosy, or paralysis, can be healed without treatment. There was a woman who had suffered from uterine bleeding for decades. Because of her faith, she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, and her illness was healed instantly. Faith not only heals, but can also bring the dead back to life. Jesus is the embodiment of faith, and he clearly tells us that with faith, a person could uproot a tree and plant it in the sea. Jesus often expressed frustration with us, saying, "You of little faith." His disciples went out to preach and often returned without success, and Jesus would say they had little faith. Even Peter, who had the greatest faith, wanted to walk on water when he saw Jesus doing so. When he first stepped onto the water, he walked a few steps because of his strong faith. But when he saw the towering waves around him, fear took hold, and his faith quickly diminished. As his faith waned, he could no longer walk on water and began to sink. Jesus called him a man of little faith. If Peter had maintained his faith, if he had faced the stormy waves with calm confidence, he would not have sunk. Buddha Shakyamuni also said that if a person has genuine faith in the Diamond Sutra, they can become a Buddha. If they reach the state of formlessness, they can become a true bodhisattva. I, Xiefeng, have high hopes for many people, referring to them as masters, great ones, saints, messengers, and angels. If these people have genuine faith, they can quickly elevate their wisdom and spiritual awareness under my guidance and become true masters and saints in a very short time. But without faith, they are nothing. In psychology, there is a term called the Pygmalion effect, which can also explain this mystery. There was a Zen master who, in gratitude for a disciple who had served him diligently for over 30 years, respectfully called him Buddha one morning. However, this disciple had no understanding of Zen. When the master called him Buddha, he didn't acknowledge it. Because he lacked faith, he failed to attain sudden enlightenment and become a Buddha. If you don't acknowledge yourself as a Buddha, you will never become one. Even in daily life, faith plays a tremendous role. For example, in a marriage, if a wife has unwavering faith in her husband's abilities and qualities, the family will be warm, harmonious, peaceful, and content, and its economic and social status will rise rapidly. If the wife constantly doubts her husband, has no confidence in him, and frequently complains and criticizes, the family will lack harmony and be in constant turmoil, and, in severe cases, may lead to separation or divorce. In extreme cases, it could even lead to the destruction of the family and the loss of lives. Do you understand now? Love is life. In the Life chapter, I have provided a relatively detailed revelation about life. Life is a non-material structure with spirituality. To those who understand, this is as obvious as a louse on a bald man's head, a clear fact. To those who don't understand, it's like trying to explain quantum physics to a cat, completely bewildering. To bring it closer to reality and make it easier to grasp, I will express it differently. Life is love. Life is a non-material structure, and the more perfect this structure, the higher the quality of life. And perfection is primarily manifested in love. The life of the greatest creator is the most perfect because he has great love. The lives of Jesus and Buddha Shakyamuni are highly perfect because they possess universal love. Jesus loved humanity with his blood, and Buddha Shakyamuni gave up a privileged life and endured hardship for 49 years to relieve humanity's suffering. Their lives are perfect lives. Love can purify the soul and make the structure of life more symmetrical and perfect. Those with Buddha eyes can see into the 36-dimensional spaces. By comparing the differences in life between the Pure Land, the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, the human world, the animal world, the plant world, the netherworld, the frozen layer, and the inflamed layer, you will find that the differences in life at each level are primarily reflected in love. The amount, breadth, and depth of love are the most crucial factors determining which level of existence a life appears and exists in. Crude oil extracted from the earth becomes distinctly separated into light oil, gasoline, diesel, kerosene, and asphalt after refining. The purer it is, the higher its quality and the greater its usefulness. The more impurities it contains, the lower its quality and the less its usefulness. The same applies to people. Once refined with the balance of love, the true quality of the lives of gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, saints, sages, mortals, worldly people, and ignorant people is immediately revealed. To achieve a high-quality life, one must have love. The more love, the broader and deeper it is, the easier it is to ascend to higher life spaces. Conversely, the less love, the narrower and shallower it is, the easier it is to descend into lower life spaces. If there is not only a lack of love, but also the creation of hatred, one is bound to end up in hell, there's no doubt about it. Lovers in the throes of passionate love often say, "I only love you." I say, you are being foolish. Love the greatest creator. Love gods and Buddhas. Love nature. Love humanity. Love life. And love your enemies. You won't regret it. Understand? Mong Samana. What are you busy with? Xiefeng. August 16, 2005. Translation edited by Qin Yu. Being busy is a hallmark of modern life. But what is the result of all this busyness? What are we actually busy with every day? Bill Gates is busy, President Bush was busy, CEOs of large companies are busy, street vendors are busy, workers and farmers are busy. Everyone is busy, but the outcomes are different. Being busy can be either a comedy or a tragedy. Whether it is one or the other depends on what we are busy with. Being busy in the pursuit of truth, goodness, beauty, and love is certainly a comedy, while being busy in the pursuit of fame, fortune, power, and personal desires is definitely a tragedy. Some people are busy for the sake of national and ethnic interests. Are their efforts worth it? No, they are not. They are busy blocking the progress of civilization, harming others for the benefit of a few. Many wars have been fought in the name of national and ethnic interests. If everyone prioritized national and ethnic interests over the interests of all humanity, these people would be the scourge of humanity. Being busy for the sake of national or ethnic interests is narrow-minded and short-sighted. Consider the small nations in China's history. They exhausted their resources and mobilized the entire population to engage in life-and-death struggles with neighboring countries, draining the people and the treasury. What was the final outcome? Unification. And that was good. One unified China is better than many small Chinas constantly fighting each other. By analogy, if this world had no nations, or if the entire Earth were one nation, wouldn't that be great? At least the people wouldn't need to support so many military personnel, and military expenditures could be eliminated. There would also be no need for so many administrative personnel, embassies, border guards, immigration offices, customs, and the like could be abolished, and visa procedures could be eliminated. Unification is better than division. In this sense, being busy for the sake of national or ethnic interests is contrary to the development of global civilization. Some people are busy with religious or political parties. Is that busyness worth it? No, it's not. Those who are busy with religion and political parties are actually narrow-minded, blind, selfish, and self-serving. Their busyness does not bring peace to the world, but rather disputes and chaos. Just think. If this world had no religions or political parties, wouldn't that create a more peaceful and harmonious environment? Some people are busy with their small families, working themselves to exhaustion. In the end, who remembers their grandfather? Which family can remain prosperous for generations? A lifetime of busyness for the sake of family might end up bringing not joy and happiness to future generations, but rather pain and misfortune. And what about the husband-wife relationship? It can dissolve at any time. There's no husband whose death would cause his wife to be unable to live, and no wife whose death would drive her husband to jump off a building. A home is a shackle, a cage, but people are deeply trapped in it, with no way out. Today is the era of the internet. Many people are busy online all day, writing articles, making comments, but they haven't thought that these are all fleeting like smoke. Some articles remain online for only a few hours before disappearing. Do we still hope that people will return to read those articles? Other than reading them ourselves, who has the time to go back and read? Every day, there are new articles to read. Who still reads outdated ones? Moreover, most articles do not bring truth, goodness, beauty, and love to people but rather anxiety, trouble, distress, and confusion. They create hatred and expose falsehood, evil, ugliness, and resentment, which is no different from garbage, except that this is cultural garbage, spiritual and mental garbage. Some people are busy making friends, attending meetings, gatherings, banquets, birthday celebrations, housewarming parties, weddings, and funerals. Is this joyful or sorrowful? The more worldly people you associate with, the more distress you will have. Is it really necessary to be busy with all this? Some people are busy learning knowledge, reading books and magazines, attending various classes and exams, which is very hard work just to make a living. I wonder, in ancient times, people didn't have so many opportunities to acquire knowledge, and they didn't have as much knowledge as we do today. But does that mean they lived unhappy, unfulfilled lives? There are some people whose busyness is indeed valuable because they are busy pursuing truth, goodness, beauty, and love. From this, they gain wisdom, true joy, and happiness, and they elevate the quality of their life. They not only fully enjoy the pleasures of life while they are alive, but also lay a foundation for a beautiful future life. Jesus taught us, what good is it to accumulate wealth on earth? Accumulate treasures in heaven. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This kind of busyness is the only busyness that is truly valuable. Pursuing truth, goodness, beauty, and love is walking on the way of the greatest creator. We should constantly ask ourselves, what am I busy with? 孕育时间越长，果实越香. The longer the gestation, the sweeter the fruit. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. There's a folk saying, peach trees take 3 years, apricot trees take 4. But if you want to eat walnuts, you'll need to wait 18 years. This means that a peach tree bears fruit 3 years after being planted, and an apricot tree after 4 years. But to taste a walnut, you'll have to wait through 18 springs and autumns for the tree to bear fruit. The more valuable something is, the longer it takes to gestate. In Journey to the West, it is recorded that the ginseng fruit in the Wuzhuang Temple takes 3,000 years to bloom, another 3,000 years to bear fruit, and yet another 3,000 years for the fruit to ripen. If one could eat a ginseng fruit, they would live for 47,000 years. In the Queen Mother of the West's peach garden, the peaches in the front garden ripen once every 3,000 years. Eating one grants health, lightness of body, and immortality. The peaches in the middle garden ripen once every 6,000 years. Eating one grants eternal life and the ability to ascend to heaven. The peaches in the back garden ripen once every 9,000 years. Eating one bestows longevity equal to that of heaven and earth. People who are impatient to taste the fruit will never experience truly delicious fruit. If you sow the seed today and expect to eat the fruit tomorrow, that's called impatience. Some people don't even want to sow seeds and instead plot to get, deceive, steal, or rob the fruits of others' hard work. While there may be a chance of success in this world through such methods, and the lure of success without effort can tempt many to follow suit, the fruits they obtain this way will not be sweet and are likely to be toxic. Some people study Buddhism for 3 days and then expect to become a Buddha. When they don't achieve this in 3 days, they switch to studying the Bible. Before they even understand the basics of the Bible, they start preaching. But when they can't answer others' questions, they either stubbornly insist they're right, quoting a few lines from the Bible to show their steadfast faith, or they abandon the Bible altogether and never think about it again. These people only skim the surface and never grasp the true essence, and in the end, they might even dismiss the classics as useless. Entering a path is deeper than the ocean, and only those who immerse themselves in it can obtain the ocean's fruits. The problem is that few people are truly devoted to their studies, while many just skim the surface, seeking fame and fortune. This is the underlying cause of the restlessness in our current era. Tang monk endured 81 hardships over 19 years, walking more than 50,000 miles to retrieve the Buddhist scriptures from the West. Through this long gestation period, he finally achieved true results and tasted the sweet fruits. Do modern people still have this kind of perseverance? They are unwilling to do even one day of voluntary work, always calculating immediate gains. If they don't see benefits within a few years or even a few months, they become discouraged and agitated, either giving up or cursing themselves for being foolish. In the past, there were disciples who could loyally follow their master for a lifetime. Do such disciples still exist today? No, people nowadays are practical, and no one wants to be foolishly loyal. However, faith can move mountains. Those who truly obtain the sweet fruit are the foolishly loyal ones like Tang monk. There was once an eccentric man who gave an honest man a tree seed, telling him, "This is a seed I stole from the heavens. It will grow into a towering tree and will eventually bear fruit worth more than gold. Take good care of it." The honest man was overjoyed and planted the magical tree in fertile soil, tending to it day and night. A year passed, then another. The sapling grew to the height of the eaves, with lush green leaves, but it neither bloomed nor bore fruit. The honest man began to grow impatient. After 2 more years of waiting, his neighbors started mocking him. Some called him foolish, some said he was stupid, and others said he was mad. "You've been bewitched by a madman's words. There's no tree that bears fruit worth more than gold. You've been duped," they jeered, "wasting your time tending to a tree every day like a madman." The honest man felt deeply hurt, but he couldn't bear to give up, so he decided to wait a little longer. 6 more years passed, and still, the tree bore no fruit. His reputation as a fool had spread far and wide. One day, his patience reached its limit. Thinking of the 10 years of hard work and wasted time, he became furious and angrily raised an axe to chop down the tree. 2 years later, the eccentric man returned and asked the honest man, "Where's the tree?" The honest man, fuming with rage, shouted, "You're a big liar. I tended to that damn tree for 10 years, and it never bore any fruit, so I chopped it down." The eccentric man sighed and said, "You were too impatient. That tree needed 12 years to bear fruit. This year would have been its fruiting period. The fruit was the fruit of life, and eating it would have allowed you to ascend to immortality. What a pity, what a pity." With that, the eccentric man disappeared in a puff of smoke. Many miraculous fruits have vanished from the earth forever due to people's lack of faith and their eagerness for quick results. What a pity. Truly, what a pity. Life genuine holds the secrets of life. Want to obtain them? Then, carefully cultivate the life genuine tree. 给生命增值. Adding value to life. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. In society, there is a common phenomenon. When someone moves to a new place for work or life, having a letter of introduction from a famous person or an important department can command immediate respect, making things easier. For instance, if you present a letter from the president's office, not only will ordinary people be impressed, but even a governor might show deference. Conversely, if your letter is from a local neighborhood office, you might not even get a meeting with the county chief, let alone the governor. Similarly, if you display a photo in your living room of yourself with President Bush or Bill Gates, people will view you with greater respect. However, if the photo is with a criminal, people will likely keep their distance, treating you with caution. This approach is a way to add value to one's life. The person hasn't changed, but with eye-catching packaging, others assume the content must be valuable. Just as an ordinary product's price can increase dramatically with exquisite packaging, a person in society can benefit from effective self-presentation. Good presentation not only enhances one's image, but also makes tasks easier. During my travels in China, whenever a taxi driver asked where my child was studying and I mentioned he was attending university in the United States, their attitude and tone would noticeably shift, as if my status and value had suddenly increased, allowing me to project a more dignified demeanor. Is this superficial? Not at all. The secular world thrives on such things. In fact, truthful self-presentation can not only enhance one's appearance, but also has a profound psychological impact, subtly increasing one's self-worth. Every time I think of friends like Taiji Celestial, Foshan Celestial, Penglai Celestial, and Tianshan Celestial, I feel a surge of pride and see myself as someone remarkable. Some people value the packaging more than the product itself. Is the packaging worthless? If Xiefeng becomes internationally renowned one day, my packaging will become very valuable. A certain Chanyuan Celestial might proudly say, "Xiefeng is my close friend. I can call him anytime." Appropriate self-presentation truly makes a difference. Why not embrace it? Adding value to one's life is about enjoyment. Life is essentially a game, so why not play it to the fullest? Only a fool would be overly serious and devoid of any sense of fun. However, if you can add value to your life, the significance becomes much greater. St. Peter and St. Paul were different from ordinary people, as were Guanyin Bodhisattva and Manjusri Bodhisattva, because of their special relationships with Jesus and Shakyamuni. Thus, their lives were imbued with greater value. Adding value to life goes beyond mere self-presentation or having fun. It's about enhancing the quality of one's life. Even the finest gem won't shine without being cut, polished, and refined. Even the best ivory won't become a masterpiece without careful carving. A blank sheet of paper has little value, but when a master artist paints landscapes, birds, and flowers on it, and adds deeply meaningful inscriptions, its value increases significantly. Anyone who has undergone the spiritual transformation of life genuine, whether they acknowledge it or not, has increased the value of their life. This is because their way of thinking has changed, leading to a transformation in the form of their life. Such a change is a sign of added value. Someone passionate about political commentary, once exposed to Life Genuine, may lose interest in it. An atheist who reads Life Genuine's writings might question their old worldview and life values. A religious devotee or a political party member who engages with Life Genuine will likely reflect on their beliefs. Someone skeptical about the future of life, after entering Life Genuine, will develop hope and anticipation for the future. If you believe you are valuable, you are. If you believe you are worthless, you are. A confident person can generate boundless spiritual strength. Someone aiming to change the world will find their wisdom suddenly emerging. A person striving to become a master will experience extraordinary inspiration. Someone with an infinite longing for life will surely find a true guide. One must become the architect and builder of their future life, actively seizing every opportunity to expand their knowledge. Avoid missing any divine opportunities. A foolish person clings to outdated practices, is timid and fearful, and prefers to remain in their comfort zone. They may cling to a precarious branch during a flood. When the greatest creator sends a boat to rescue them, they refuse to board. When the greatest creator sends a plane, they still refuse, stubbornly believing that the greatest creator himself will come to save them, with the inevitable result of being swept away by the flood. Some people spend their lives following a path that leads nowhere, yet they close their eyes and dare not try new paths. Others fear reading books with new ideas and new thinking, worried it might shatter their fragile beliefs. Such individuals, in the end, can only weep over their own missed opportunities and fail to add value to their lives. There is no fixed method or eternal remedy. If someone doesn't dare to associate with today's great minds, what progress can they make beyond muttering to themselves and whispering in secret? Some people don't understand the concept of truth, but still pursue it. Isn't that like a blind man lighting a candle to no avail? Where will you find the truth? Who wants to add value to their life? Enter Life Genuine, the only place of its kind. Don't wander aimlessly. The ship of life is at your doorstep. If you still refuse to board, don't blame the greatest creator, Jesus, or Shakyamuni for being unkind or unmerciful. 健康的秘诀, The Secret to Health. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. Humanity spends enormous amounts on preventing and treating diseases. Yet, no matter how advanced our medical technology becomes, we cannot prevent illnesses from occurring, nor can we stop the death of our physical bodies. In the chapter of Unconventional Thinking, I posed a question. Why don't wild animals train their own doctors? In the Elementary Health Preservation section of the Health Preservation chapter, I discussed 8 factors that lead to the weakening and death of living beings. Today, I will explain the secret to health. First, let's consider people with disabilities. We must ask, why do they become disabled? Is it merely due to factors like war, car accidents, plane crashes, medical errors, unfortunate falls, or fires? And when we look at people who frequently fall ill, we must also ask, why are they sick? Some people rarely get sick throughout their lives, while others are plagued by illness. What is the cause? Farmers know that seeds must be carefully selected for planting. The largest and fullest seeds are chosen for the next year's planting to ensure a good harvest. If the seeds are not full and plump, the crops will not grow well. For plants like beans, cucumbers, watermelons, and gourds, the seeds must be taken from the fruits closest to the stem, not from the ones farthest from it. Seeds near the stem will grow into plants that flower and bear fruit early, making efficient use of nutrients and time, leading to a good harvest. In contrast, Seeds from the fruits far from the stem may produce plants that only grow long vines, taking a long time to flower and bear fruit. This not only wastes a lot of nutrients, but also delays the harvest, making it difficult to achieve a good yield. Now, think about why different flowers like peonies, roses, chrysanthemums, and crabapples are distinct from one another. Or why peach trees only produce peaches and apricot trees only produce apricots. Why do poplars grow straight while fruit trees spread out like showerheads? Why do beans twine as they grow? The answer is simple. Different life forms have different genetic structures or different life structures, which lead to different life forms. The issue lies here. The life structure determines the life form. Factory mold makers understand that if a mold has a defect or flaw, all products made from that mold will bear the same flaw. To create flawless products, the mold itself must be flawless. Similarly, to maintain good health, the body must have a flawless life structure. Suppose someone falls while building a house, breaks his leg, and ends up with an amputation, or someone encounters a car accident and loses a leg. The root cause isn't carelessness or bad luck. It lies in a flaw in his life structure. Once this flaw exists, his leg is destined to be lost, whether by a fall, a car accident, a fire, disease, assault, or snakebite. In any case, his leg is doomed. If it's not amputated from a fall, it will be lost in a car accident. If not burned in a fire, it will be paralyzed by disease. If not broken by someone, it will be bitten off by a snake. In short, his leg cannot be saved. Likewise, any disease, whether it's heart disease, arthritis, cancer, or AIDS, begins with a flaw in the life structure. The problem is not with the surface, but with the essence. If a person's life structure is perfect, they will not fall ill. Whether it's the flu, the Black Death, SARS, or bird flu, they will remain unaffected. They also won't encounter accidents like car crashes or plane crashes. Even if they do, they will survive unharmed. A simple observation reveals a pattern. People who frequently fall ill have psychological and mental issues, not physical ones. To maintain a healthy body, one must first have a healthy mind and spirit. Once there are issues with the mind and spirit, the body will soon develop corresponding discomfort or disease. Psychological and spiritual issues can be attributed to problems of the mind, and the mind is closely related to the structure of life. Science has proven that the structure of water molecules is influenced by the consciousness of life around them. When water molecules encounter positive emotions like love, gratitude, and affection, they exhibit a beautifully symmetrical structure. When they encounter negative emotions like hatred, disgust, and irritation, they exhibit an ugly and flawed structure. These ugly and defective structures are flawed structures, and such flawed structures can lead to problems or diseases. What is true for water molecules is true for all matter. The structure of our bodies changes with our mental state. To have a healthy body, we must first have a healthy and perfect soul. A great person once said, "After 40, a person is responsible for their own appearance." Buddhism teaches that during cultivation, one should maintain a compassionate and kind demeanor and posture, showing that the soul is connected not only to appearance, but also to the structure of life. The best prescription for a beautiful soul is the teachings of Jesus and Sakyamuni, followed by practicing cultivation in Life-Genuine. As the Life-Genuine era arrives, hospitals will disband, and doctors will no longer exist, yet everyone will be healthy, almost like the celestial beings in the thousand-year world. 不要打搅乐就在其中. Do not disturb, joy lies within it. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. When I was a child, sitting on the ground and playing with mud with my friends, I found joy within it. At such moments, if an adult came over and interrupted, saying that smart children should be reading instead of playing with mud, and that they should stay clean and not get their clothes dirty, it would ruin the fun. For teenagers, idol worship is like playing with mud. Their happiness and joy lie within it. If adults are disdainful and obstructive, it can hurt the pure emotions of these young people and cast a shadow over their innocent hearts. When two people are deeply in love, they find great joy within it. If teachers or elders insist on them being rational, it can prevent the budding of love from blooming at the right time, leading to enormous regret and endless consequences in their lives. A woman with a beautiful figure might enjoy taking nude photos of herself, and sharing them publicly. Please don't judge her by conventional moral standards or try to bring her down. She is immersed in her own joy, and many others are thrilled and excited by the beauty of her art. This aligns not only with the original intent of the Garden of Eden, but also with the life of celestial beings in the 10,000-year world of heaven. Some people enjoy seeking thrills, horse racing, playing the stock market, bungee jumping, adventuring, having affairs, or even overthrowing regimes. Please do not interfere. They are finding joy within these activities. Some enjoy writing poetry, playing chess, singing, or fishing. Please do not mock or disturb them. They are finding joy within these activities. Some love politics, some love making money, some love art, and some love philosophy. Please don't pour cold water on them or discourage them. They are finding joy within these pursuits. Some enjoy studying Buddhism, some enjoy cultivating as celestial beings, some enjoy martial arts, and some enjoy mystical arts. Please do not ridicule them. They are finding joy within these practices. Some enjoy getting married, some enjoy being single, some enjoy meditating, and some enjoy hiking. Please do not give unsolicited advice or offer misguided suggestions. They are finding joy within these preferences. If someone is passionate about something, as long as it brings them happiness and does not harm others, they should be allowed to indulge in their passion. Interfering will only bring them distress, leaving them at a loss. Who can say their life is the most perfect or that their path is the most correct? Who can guarantee that their advice will bring joy and happiness to others? What others do not need should not be forcibly given, and when others do not need help, do not insist on being a good person. The mood of a person living in a thatched cottage may be better than that of a person living in a luxurious palace. The body and mind of someone who eats simple food may be healthier than those of someone who indulges in gourmet delicacies. Simplicity is better than complexity, and plainness is more precious than extravagance. A shepherd may understand the wonders and beauty of nature better than a philosopher. What is a successful life? As long as you feel happy and content throughout your life, that is a successful life. Is becoming an emperor a success? Perhaps sorrow lies within. Is having billions of dollars a success? Perhaps trouble lies within. Is becoming famous or holding office a success? Perhaps problems lie within. Is having a different beautiful woman to accompany you every night a success? Perhaps disaster lies within. Is writing 1,000,000 articles a success? Perhaps moral corruption lies within. Good fortune hides within bad, and bad fortune lurks within good. The lotus emerges pure from the mud, while fish perish in clear water. The gates of a wealthy household may conceal the starved dead, while a remote place may give birth to a phoenix. Who can discern this? Cleverness can lead to its own downfall. As the saying goes, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. A lifetime of humiliation may instead lead to the Buddhist path. A life of poverty may instead lead to the celestial way. Who can comprehend these mysteries? Only those with great wisdom and insight should offer advice or make suggestions, and only those with deep enlightenment should educate or guide others. It seems I must also be cautious. Otherwise, I may not be doing good but instead accumulating karma. As long as you find joy in what you do, I will stand aside, not disturbing or offering poor advice. A gentleman's word cannot be taken back, no matter how fast the horse is, as Wei Xiaobao famously said. 客观世界是主观意识的反应. The objective world is a reflection of subjective consciousness. Xiefeng, September 22, 2005. Translation edited by Qin. In the face of the myriad phenomena in the vast world, i.e., objective reality, human beings are always in a passive position. This passivity arises from a reversal of the primary and secondary relationship, mistaking the subject for the object and the object for the subject. In reality, the subjective is the essence, and the objective is the external manifestation. However, people tend to treat the subjective as the objective and the objective as the subjective. This inversion of primary and secondary is akin to putting the cart before the horse, leading humanity to display a passive consciousness in the face of nature. This negates the proactive role of human consciousness, resulting in the attribution of all human misfortunes and sufferings to nature, while ignoring the positive and negative effects of one's own consciousness. This, in turn, provides a self-soothing excuse for one's misfortunes and suffering. I have a copy of the Modern Chinese Dictionary at hand. Under the entry for consciousness, it defines, consciousness is the reflection of the objective material world in the human brain. It is the sum of psychological processes such as sensation and thinking, with thinking being the advanced form of reflection unique to humans. Existence determines consciousness, and consciousness, in turn, acts upon existence. This explanation is entirely inverted, placing humans in a passive position, leading them into a state of confusion and trapping them in an abyss of darkness with no way to find light. Under such erroneous guidance, people can only resign themselves to fate, placing their hopes on gods, Buddhas, or great figures, expecting a savior to rescue them. They forget their own subjective initiative and fail to realize that they themselves are their own saviors. In other words, while one is originally their own savior, they now view external things as their savior. This is the root of human suffering and misfortune. The correct understanding of consciousness is that it is a manifestation of the non-material structure of a spiritual being, a self-nature tathagata. It is a thinking activity that proactively creates the objective world. The objective world is the result of subjective consciousness. Consciousness determines existence, and existence, in turn, acts upon consciousness. The principle may seem profound and difficult to understand, but upon careful reflection, profound truths become simple and easy to grasp. Let's first consider the Thai ladyboys. Thai ladyboys are males who feminize themselves. Some ladyboys are as beautiful as celestial beings, captivating with their every movement and smile, surpassing even the most beautiful women. How is this possible? The key lies in the proactive role of the ladyboy's consciousness. If a man consciously and persistently studies and mimics women, continually imagining himself as a woman, over time, under the influence of his consciousness, not only will his speech and behavior become feminine, but his personality traits and even his physical and psychological characteristics will gradually change towards femininity, ultimately transforming him into a ladyboy. Why is it said that after the age of 40, people are responsible for their own appearance? Why do enlightened beings have compassionate and kind expressions? The reason lies in the positive role of self-consciousness. In other words, the objective reality is a reflection of subjective consciousness. Whatever subjective consciousness exists, so will the objective reality. Why are Americans wealthy while Africans are poor? On the same planet, under the same sun, where does the difference lie? The root cause lies in consciousness. Whatever subjective consciousness exists, so will the objective reality. It is not existence that determines consciousness, but consciousness that determines existence. People with cheerful personalities are generally healthy and long-lived, while those with narrow minds are generally more prone to illness and shorter lifespans. This is primarily due to the influence of consciousness, not diet and environment. Under the same conditions and environment, some people's homes are clean, tidy, refreshing, and comfortable, while others' homes are messy, chaotic, and foul-smelling. Where lies the reason? Again, it's the influence of consciousness. Whatever consciousness exists, so will the reality. Should we still blame heaven and earth? We should not complain about the greatest creator. We should change our consciousness. The objective reality is the product of one's own subjective consciousness. Some may argue that those born into poor families or with congenital defects, are these objective realities also caused by subjective consciousness? The answer is 100% caused by one's own subjective consciousness. Do not blame your parents, do not blame the greatest creator, do not blame society, and do not blame nature. This requires tracing back to your consciousness in previous lives and even further back, meaning that the consciousness of your past lives has led to the objective reality of this life. There is no error in the teachings of Jesus and Sakyamuni. What is the purpose of our cultivation and practice? It is to change our consciousness. If a person has the consciousness of a pig, they will inevitably end up in a pigsty, keeping company with pigs. If a person has a mentality inclined toward theft, they will inevitably associate with thieves. If a person has the consciousness of a Buddha, they will naturally be born into the Buddha's land in the next life. If a person has the consciousness of a super celestial being, after the death of their physical body, they will surely go to the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. This is very simple common sense. What is so difficult to understand about it? Some may consider this superstition, but my dear comrades, this is not superstition. Superstition is something that cannot be clearly explained, but I can explain all of this to you in detail. Watching you not walk the great way of life, but blindly rush about, wasting your precious time, my heart aches. While I am still in this world, you should seize the opportunity to cultivate and practice. If you cannot accept that I am the incarnation of Jesus and Sakyamuni, it's fine to regard me as a dung beetle, a rotten egg, or even a demon or ghost. The key is whether what I say makes sense. If it does, then what are you waiting for? If the greatest creator sends a boat to pick you up and you refuse to board, or if the greatest creator sends a plane to pick you up and you refuse to fly, do you really think the greatest creator will come to pick you up personally? Just weigh how important you are, and you'll understand. 突破围墙意识. Break through the consciousness of walls. 写法. Translation edited by Chinyu. Creation has destined the snail to travel with a heavy shell on its back. Most mollusks have protective shells. The softer they are on the inside, the harder their exterior. The harder they are inside, the softer their exterior. Humans exhibit a similar phenomenon. Those who are harsh and domineering with their wives and children at home, or aggressive with siblings, neighbors, and friends, tend to become weak and submissive when they travel far from home. Conversely, those who are meek and gentle with their loved ones often display courage and strength in front of strangers. People who are adept at internal conflicts within their own circles are often humble outside, while those who attack their own compatriots, nation, or country often appear very compliant and docile in front of foreigners. The less attractive a person feels, the more they tend to package themselves. The poorer one's economic situation, the more they are inclined to wear branded clothes. The less powerful one is, the more they like to put on airs. The less wise one is, the more they pretend to be profound and broad-minded. The less capable one is, the more they flatter and ingratiate others. The weaker one's inner self, the more they tend to fortify and isolate themselves. The narrower one's mind, the more they defend themselves. In front of my house, there used to be a wire fence surrounding the largest golf course in Harare. Inside the course, there were lush green grass, gentle slopes, and a vast, open view. From the outside, the view inside was beautiful, and from the inside, the outside scenery was equally picturesque. However, a month ago, things suddenly changed. A wall was erected around the golf course. Now, those outside can no longer see the scenery inside, and those inside can no longer see the scenery outside. The expansive view became narrow in an instant, with the cold, gray wall now dominating the sight, creating a deep sense of oppression. I remember 10 years ago when the walls around homes were low. Some even had no walls at all, using plants and vines to surround their yards instead. Some only used steel bars or wire mesh, allowing pedestrians outside to fully enjoy the unique beauty of each household's garden, appreciating the flowers and plants, and watching the playful dogs and cats inside. The people within the yards could freely take in the scenery outside, effectively expanding their own space and extending their view to infinity. But now, every household has high walls, and these walls are often topped with barbed wire. The gates are made of thick black iron plates, sealed tightly without a crack, completely isolating the inside from the outside. By blocking others, one also blocks oneself. By limiting others' views, one also limits one's own. Closing the doors and windows prevents the entry of sunlight and fresh air. By not opening one's heart, one rejects opportunities for communication with other beautiful souls. Cleverness turns into folly. The more one defends, the more confined they become. The more one emphasizes safety, the less secure they feel. The vastest ocean accommodates the most rivers, and the most open heart is most likely to give birth to the greatest thoughts. Those who do not reject diverse diets have the strongest bodies. The person who receives the most love is the one who selflessly gives their love to as many people as possible. The moment you feel great and extraordinary is precisely when you are at your smallest and most useless. When you feel wise and profound but your heart is arrogant, that is the moment when you are most ignorant. When you hide your emotions and thoughts, believing you have acquired valuable treasures, it is when you are actually harboring rotten and foul garbage. When you are desperately trying to protect and defend yourself, setting up defenses everywhere, that is the moment when you are at your weakest, most troubled, and most bored. A lamp should be placed on a stand to shine and illuminate. Flowers should bloom at the right time to release their fragrance, and people should seize opportunities to create. Opportunity knocks but once. Time waits for no one. Life is short. One cannot passively avoid the world, lingering and hesitating in wait and observation. Lost time can never be retrieved, and missed opportunities will never come again. Every day, every moment is a part of life. One must not let idleness and emptiness occupy the precious space of life. Though the pigsty may be large, it cannot offer a view of the scenery outside. While one can swim in a pond, it cannot allow one to experience the vast and majestic sea. Surrounding oneself with walls may enable survival, but it cannot let one appreciate the diverse wonders of the world. Lying in a coffin buried underground may protect one from the cold wind and fierce storms, but it also deprives one of the myriad joys of life. Break through the consciousness of walls and step out of the prison of the mind. Soar like a petrel riding the stormy waves. Integrate your talents and wisdom into the creation of the life-genuine era. Let your beautiful and precious life flow into the tide of the new era. Clinging stubbornly to the past cannot save you. Holding on to remnants and defects means regression and death. Conservatism cannot compare to openness. Sticking to the old is not as good as innovation. Waiting is not as good as striving forward. Silent death is not as good as calling out for life. Playing seriously, being serious in play, and constantly striving towards the highest state of life. This is the most vibrant and passionate life. Break through the walls of life and enter the paradise of celestial being life. Break through the walls of the family and enter the home of universal love. Break through the walls of religion and political parties and enter the deeper sanctuary of life genuine. Break through the walls of the nation and enter the homeland of life. Most importantly, break through the walls of the mind and soar freely toward infinite freedom. Courageously venture into mysterious and unknown realms, explore the wonders of the vast universe, experience the charm and joys of another form of life, and feel the vast and boundless spiritual realm and the magical thinking melody of creating something out of nothing. Live every moment with boundless freedom, passion, and joy. As long as you break through, you will see a whole new world. 天人合一，同频共振. Unite with heaven. Resonate at the same frequency. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. As long as there is motion, there is vibration. As long as there is vibration, there is frequency. Where there is frequency, there is rhythm and regularity. Things that share the same frequency can resonate with each other, mutually enhancing, developing, and growing stronger. Conversely, things with different frequencies can suppress, cancel out, or even destroy each other. The softer something is, the easier it is to adjust its frequency and resonate. The harder something is, the more likely it is to become rigid, resistant, and opposed to resonance. Mountains and rocks can be easily destroyed, but water and air are difficult to break. The more adaptable a life form is to change, the greater its chances of survival. Life forms that cannot adapt to changes in their environment and rigidly adhere to their rhythms are prone to collapse and extinction. This applies to bacteria, plants, animals, and humans alike. Halley's Comet visits Earth every 76 years. This is its rhythm, its regularity, its vibrational frequency. The Earth orbits the Sun every 365 days. The Moon orbits the Earth every 29.5 days. Adult women experience menstruation. Seasons change on schedule. Day and night alternate. Waking and sleeping follow a cycle. Migratory birds move at regular intervals. Tides rise and fall predictably, and the heart beats 60 times per minute. All of these are examples of rhythm and frequency. People whose biological rhythms or frequencies are not suited to high-altitude environments may experience altitude sickness. People who live in areas with low humidity struggle when they move to drier climates. Those who travel long distances across time zones may suffer from jet lag. A Muslim suddenly living among Buddhists might feel uncomfortable, and even someone from the north of a country might find it difficult to adjust to the diet in the south. Have people noticed that everyone has a relatively stable circle of life? Although we live in a vast sea of people, we prefer to live in small circles where the culture and customs are the same or similar to our own. It's difficult to break out of this circle. Abroad, these cultural circles become especially pronounced, with Indians tending to stay together. Chinese people often associate with other Chinese. White people frequent predominantly white clubs, and black people tend to gather in predominantly black entertainment venues. Even in a university, students from the same province are more likely to bond with each other. The force behind these unconscious behaviors is frequency, biological frequency. Why do you like someone? Because their frequency matches or is similar to yours. Why do they dislike you? Because your frequency doesn't resonate with theirs. When frequencies can't resonate, there is no harmony, and without harmony, peaceful coexistence is impossible. To thrive, you must strive to resonate with your surroundings. Frequencies can be adjusted. To ensure that a large symphony orchestra plays beautiful, harmonious music, all the instruments must be tuned to the same pitch and frequency. To function effectively within a group and make a significant impact, each person must also tune their mind and thinking frequency accordingly. Biological entities that stubbornly adhere to their own frequencies, ignoring changes, either struggle through life or head towards self-elimination and destruction. What I'm trying to say is that everything is undergoing significant changes. Suppose the sun suddenly rises in the west. Suppose the sea suddenly becomes land, or land becomes sea. Suppose nations, religions, political parties, and families suddenly disappear. Suppose the sun, moon, and stars suddenly lose their light. Suppose natural disasters occur frequently. Suppose hospitals suddenly vanish, transportation and communication suddenly cease, or you suddenly lose all contact with your loved ones, friends, and familiar people. Could you handle it? I know some compatriots who refuse to eat Western food, saying it's unpalatable and that it upsets their stomachs. There was a man in his 30s who, after living abroad for 6 months, one day cried bitterly. When asked why, he said he missed home and his children. Another friend constantly wore a gloomy expression because he couldn't stand the smell of foreigners. A colleague mentioned feeling oppressed in Zimbabwe because of the abundant trees and said he preferred living in Jaiguan Pass, where the vast Gobi Desert offers a broad, open view. I've noticed that people today are extremely fragile, unable to withstand any shock or setback. Modern people can't enjoy the comfortable life our ancestors had 2,000 years ago. Without tap water, they complain. Without public transport, they curse. Without electric lights or phones, they grumble. Without air conditioning or TV, they get irritated. The more comfortable life is, the more fragile people become. The more freedom they have, the less they can tolerate criticism. If things don't go their way, they abandon themselves to despair, self-pity, and self-loathing. If someone's words are even slightly careless, unintentional from the speaker but taken to heart by the listener, they sulk, throw tantrums, demand independence, seek division, or either remain silent or fly into a rage. They judge others by their own standards. No one can help. Fragility is not the same as softness. I hope people can be soft, not fragile. Softness can adapt to various frequencies, but fragility leads only to death. The unity of heaven and humanity doesn't just mean heaven-human resonance, heaven-human oneness, or heaven-human holography. It also means adapting to the changes of heaven. We can't always expect heaven to conform to human desires. Instead, we should consider how humans can align with the will of heaven, resonating with the changes in the Tao. If it rains, crying won't help. If it snows, shouting is useless. One must adapt to the changes of heaven. The stars are awakening. Consciousness must change. The frequency of the heavens is going to change, and people should enter life genuine. All religions will unify into one uniform belief. This is the trend of the times, and we must adapt. We must change the frequency of our minds. If our frequency does not change, the fate of the dinosaurs serves as a warning. Bitter medicine is good for illness. Honest advice is good for life. I earnestly and with sincere care call out to people, the great power is coming. Hurry up. The gate to heaven is as narrow as a seam. Follow the guide to your future, and don't look around, left or right. To resonate with heaven is the true path. 人生的参照系和坐标系 The reference frame and coordinate system of life. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. After reading Don Xin's Recreating Reality, a direct hit on the frame of reference, I suddenly gained some insight. Don Xin mentioned, whatever frame of reference you establish, your life will correspond to that. The relationship between a person and the world will be shaped accordingly. This is indeed the truth. Life must have a frame of reference. The kind of reference frame one adopts will determine the kind of life one leads. When we observe human society, we find that people are grouped together, and the primary factor that determines these groupings is the frame of reference. People with the same frame of reference tend to cluster together, while those with different frames of reference find it difficult to integrate. What frames of reference exist in human society? The Bible, the Quran, Buddhist scriptures, the Tao Te Ching, science, wealth and fame, the theory of evolution, New Age concepts, Marxism, and Mao Zedong thought. These are all different frames of reference. If we classify them another way, the greatest creator, gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, humans, life, natural society, human society, time and space, non-material, and so on are all frames of reference. Christians take the Bible as their frame of reference. Muslims take the Quran. Buddhists take the Buddhist scriptures. Communist Party members take Marxism and Mao Zedong thought. Merchants take wealth. Politicians take power. Scholars take fame. And ordinary people take daily survival as their frame of reference. The ignorant have no frame of reference. A frame of reference is crucial. Choosing the wrong one can lead to a lifetime of regret and endless harm. One misstep leads to eternal remorse. So, what is the best frame of reference? What standard should we use to establish our life's frame of reference? I believe that the best frame of reference is one that allows people to live a life of value, meaning, joy, and happiness while also giving them hope, enthusiasm, drive, and vitality, and enables them to transition from the human world to heaven. I believe life genuine is such a frame of reference. With a frame of reference, one can then enter a coordinate system. Bacteria, insects, wild beasts, birds, fish and tortoises, flowers, plants, domestic animals, the ignorant, the worldly, the mortal, sages, celestial beings, Buddhas, gods. These all represent different coordinate systems. The Life of Chanyuan members, the Chanyuan Celestials, use celestial beings as their coordinate system. The kind of reference frame you adopt will shape the life you lead, and the kind of coordinate system you choose will determine the quality of your life. Let us take Life of Chanyuan as our frame of reference and celestial beings as our coordinate system, as we move toward the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. 相生相克保持平衡 Mutual generation and restraint maintain balance. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. Balance brings blessings. Excess brings misfortune. The coexistence of mutual generation and restraint is the essence of peace. This is true for the universe, and it should also be true for human life. I have studied the 5 elements theory and was once fascinated by fortune-telling for others. I discovered that the ancient Chinese wisdom is profound and mysterious. What is often dismissed as nonsense and superstition by the secular world actually contains the crystallized wisdom of our ancestors, who deeply studied the laws of the universe and the trajectory of life's blessings and misfortunes. Due to our ignorance, we have foolishly thrown away these gems of wisdom into the trash, while modern people are intoxicated by the dazzling surface phenomena of a commercial society or merely use the wisdom of the ancients as a means to make money through fortune-telling, completely ignoring the vast and profound knowledge about the universe and life left by our predecessors. The 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, mutually generate and restrain each other. Wood generates fire, fire generates earth, earth generates metal, metal generates water, and water generates wood. The 5 elements also restrain each other. Metal restrains wood, wood restrains earth, earth restrains water, water restrains fire, and fire restrains metal. Only through mutual generation and restraint can all things develop harmoniously and be peaceful forever. Any extreme development not only harms the rest, but inevitably leads to its own demise. This principle applies to nature, and human society should be the same. The reason why the United States, a country with only a few hundred years of history and a mixture of races and cultures, can become a world superpower is mainly because it conforms to the principle of mutual generation and restraint. Their administration, legislation, judiciary, religion, and civil organizations are like metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, mutually generating and restraining each other, enabling harmonious and vigorous development and making them invincible. On the other hand, China, with its 5,000-year cultural history, has experienced continuous wars, movements, and widespread discontent and anxiety throughout its history. The root cause lies in the violation of the principle of mutual generation and restraint. National affairs are not the concern of us life genuine. What we care about is how each individual can live a happy and fulfilling life. From the 8 characters fortune-telling, I have glimpsed some mysteries. The so-called 8 characters fortune-telling involves converting a person's birth year, month, day, and hour into the heavenly stems and earthly branches, then converting these into the 5 elements, and finally using the principles of mutual generation and restraint of the 5 elements to calculate a person's future lifespan, fortunes, merits and demerits, success and failures. This method of fortune-telling is highly scientific and reasonable and is a profound subject. I studied it for 2 years and found that its mysteries are beyond the understanding of anyone who is not highly learned and wise. Mechanically fortune-telling is undesirable, but what is desirable is to provide timely guidance based on each person's 5 elements. This guidance is essentially about changing a person's life trajectory, but changing a person's life trajectory is no easy task. It involves a series of personal factors. Not only must one consider the person's 5 elements attributes and the positions of the 8 trigrams, but also the changes in the times, the changes of the moment, and the 5 elements attributes of others connected to the person. One must also consider the person's beliefs and psychological activities. If any of these factors are ignored, fortune-telling guidance may have negative consequences or even disastrous results. Therefore, I no longer dare to tell fortunes. One universal insight I've gained is worth sharing. Fate lies in balance, and a life that has lost its balance will inevitably lead to sorrow and disaster. In Revelation chapter, Article 29, The Priorities and Urgency of Life, I gave a brief explanation of what are the priorities and urgency of life from a macro perspective of life as a whole. From a micro perspective, each stage of life has its priorities and urgencies, and even each day has its priorities and urgencies. Ignoring priorities and urgencies and spending much time on what is secondary and trivial can lead to distress at any time. So maintaining balance is crucial. The reason why the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth can exist forever is mainly that they can mutually generate and restrain each other, maintaining balance. Balance is perfection, smoothness, harmony, and the law for the permanence of life. If a person's 5 elements attribute is mountain fire, and if their relatives have a predominantly fire attribute, and they live in the southern part of the country, this indicates that the fire element is too strong. If they encounter a fire year, fire month, fire day, or fire hour, the fire will inevitably burn fiercely. The external manifestation could be illness, disaster, or even sudden death, unexpected misfortunes such as illness or car accidents. At this time, traveling to the north to visit relatives, or being with a few people whose 5 elements attribute is water, especially those whose attribute is heavenly water, can alleviate the severity of the situation. Giving flowers, crops, and trees the right amount of water will make them grow well, but soaking them in water will inevitably drown them. Therefore, more is not necessarily better. Moderation is best. People generally resent those who restrain them, wishing to destroy them. A powerful and corrupt person hates party discipline, hates media interviews, and hates the freedom of speech of the common people. They see the factors that restrain them as enemies, and the inevitable result is that they will fall when they are at their peak. Aside from emotional factors, parents, spouses, children, etc., are the restraining factors on a person's path of cultivation. But it is precisely these restraining factors that prevent a person from going to extremes and from going mad. Attending school, working, and participating in social activities are also restraining factors on the path of cultivation. These restraining factors provide us with opportunities for cultivation and excellent opportunities for insight. Good fortune hides within bad, and bad fortune lurks within good. Appropriate help or harm to others is beneficial, while excessive help or harm will lead to disaster. Conclusion: when the direction is right, every step is an elevation. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth mutually generate and restrain each other. As for the myriad affairs of life, one should go with the flow but never go to extremes. Do not seek possession, but seek balance. Do not seek fame, but seek inner peace. Do not seek intensity, but seek emptiness and elegance. 破坏与创造, destruction and creation. 写法. Translation edited by Chinyu. Refusing to grow means stagnation, rigidity, and death. Without a series of deaths, life loses all its meaning. The silkworm breaks out of its egg, bathes in sunlight, gentle breezes, and dewdrops, busily feeds on mulberry leaves. It continues to grow, shedding its skin twice in a complete transformation, producing golden or silvery silk. Then it spins a cocoon, transforming itself into a pupa. After a period of cultivation and practice, it changes its life structure and finally breaks out of the cocoon, emerging as a butterfly, fluttering gracefully among flowers and trees, fully enjoying the splendor of life. The eggshell, old skin, and cocoon are forms of protection, but they are also constraints. Only by continuously creating and then destroying can a brand new life form be born, soaring freely in the vast mountains and rivers. Isn't human life just the same? Family, ethnicity, nation, religion, and political parties are like the eggshell and cocoon. Initially, they protect, but later, they become restraints and shackles. If the silkworm does not break the shell and abandon it, it will die within it. Even if it does not die, it will remain forever curled inside, unable to enjoy the joy of becoming a butterfly. Constantly dying and being reborn is the meaning of life. Continuously creating and destroying is the meaning of human existence. This is a new way of thinking, a new way of life, a sage's view of life, a saint's worldview, a divine perspective on life, and the greatest creator's view of the universe. Every day, as the bright sun breaks through the morning mist and rises in the east, the crystal-clear dewdrops on the leaf tips gradually evaporate in the morning light, and a new day begins. The earth is filled with fresh vitality. New things continuously rise. The ocean sings in the waves. The green branches sway gracefully in the breeze. Joyful birds soar freely in the blue sky, and flowers bloom proudly in the fields and mountains. Ah, how marvelous life is, with the songs of birds and swallows everywhere, brimming with vitality, streams murmuring, and green waves rippling. Yesterday has passed. Beside the dying boat, 1,000 sails pass. In front of the sick tree, 10,000 new trees spring up. We should embrace new life, face the morning glow, enjoy the fresh breeze, carry a basket, and happily pick the mushrooms of happiness that belong to us. This is an active life, a diligent life, a life full of vitality, and also a life of joy and happiness. We keep on trekking, keep moving forward, heading toward the light, toward the future, toward a new life, toward the boundless space and time of life, advance together, singing and dancing joyfully. Clinging to the past is the worldview of the passive and lazy. Restricting the pursuit of freedom and happiness is the devil's worldview. Obstructing others' joy and happiness is the narrow and selfish mindset of the petty, and attacking and destroying others' joy and happiness is the perverted moral view of the malformed. Every man is a unique new landscape, and every woman should at least get to know 10 men in her lifetime. Every woman is a fresh and beautiful scenery, and every man should love at least 10 women in his lifetime. Keep the good ones, discard the bad ones in time, and then seek new scenery. The pursuit of freedom and happiness in love is a legitimate right granted by the greatest creator. Why not love? Why not pursue? Why live such a burdened life? In the end, isn't it just a trip to the crematorium? Don't cry and say, I haven't lived enough, or blame the heavens and earth, saying, I've lived too miserably. No. Say, I lived a free and fulfilling life. with no regrets. I lived according to the emotions the greatest creator gave me, with flavor, with affection and righteousness. Everyone should enter some religion or political group for baptism and experience, but don't get so deeply involved that you can't get out. Religion and political groups are like protective shells and cocoons. Only those who can enter and exit freely can transcend. If you can enter but can't exit, you will die in them, losing the qualification and opportunity to appreciate the wonders of the world. This is why Life Genuine insists on being friends without forming factions. Everyone belongs to a certain ethnicity and country, but ethnicity and country are also protective shells and cocoons. If we regard these shells and cocoons as our eternal protectors, then we live too narrowly, too boringly, too selfishly, and too conservatively. If our hearts are broad enough, we will appreciate all the ethnicities and countries in the world, befriending brothers and sisters of all ethnicities, and being friendly neighbors with sages and common folk from all countries. Blind arrogance in nationalism and statism is an obstacle and enemy to human happiness. Those who put the interests of their ethnicity and country above all are narrow-minded frogs in a well, pitiful creatures. A person with a healthy mind will not limit their life vision to a narrow valley but will look beyond hills and mountains, toward the future, toward the whole world, to appreciate countless sceneries and styles. Therefore, we must constantly destroy fixed ways of thinking, destroy traditions that shackle human nature, destroy the old shells and cocoons that once protected us, destroy decayed morals that hinder the pursuit of freedom, and destroy all shackles that prevent us from enjoying life's joy and happiness. So, we must constantly create new ways of thinking, create new lifestyles, establish new views of life, the world, life, the universe, and morality, and open up the era of life genuine that humanity has long dreamed of. The me of yesterday has already died. I no longer cling to what is past. The me of today is a new me. I am willing to create and enjoy the present life to the fullest. The me of today will also die, and I will embrace tomorrow without hesitation, full of hope to welcome the arrival of a new day. Constantly dying, constantly being reborn, constantly destroying, constantly creating, changing the structure of life, sublimating the quality of life. New life will always belong to us. 两条平行线相交于一点. Two parallel lines intersect at one point. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyu. Euclidean geometry asserts that two parallel straight lines can never intersect. Einstein, considering the perspective of the universe, hypothesized that two parallel lines might intersect, but he did not provide proof, and to this day, scientists have not been able to prove it. Euclid proved the parallel line postulate from the perspective of a two-dimensional plane. Even in three-dimensional space, Euclid's parallel line postulate holds true and cannot be overturned. Assuming that the multiverse theory in quantum mechanics string theory is accurate, even in such a scenario, two parallel straight lines cannot intersect at one point. Einstein reasoned that massive objects could cause space to deform and curve. When light encounters an object with sufficient mass, gravity prevents it from traveling in a straight line, so two parallel lines might intersect at a certain point due to this curvature. Therefore, he believed that Euclidean geometry might not be a universal principle. Some scientists consider time as a dimension, and this has scientific reasoning because any object undoubtedly exists within time and evolves with the passage of time, unable to escape time's palm. However, scientists view time with conventional thinking. Although, according to the principles of general relativity, time can also deform, this deformation does not allow two parallel lines to intersect at one point because the two parallel lines would deform simultaneously and remain parallel after the deformation. According to the principles of black holes, two parallel lines may simultaneously terminate at a certain point in time, but this does not cause them to intersect at one point. The holographic theory of the universe also cannot prove that two parallel lines will intersect at one point. According to holographic theory, two parallel straight lines carry the same information and are equal. Once formed, they will continue to move forward in parallel along a fixed trajectory. However, in the unified field theory of the universe, two parallel lines will intersect at one point. So, what is the unified field theory of the universe? Scientists have been debating this, which is why the unified field theory has yet to be established. So how can I say that two parallel lines will intersect in the unified field theory of the universe? Scientists believe that there are only four fundamental forces in the universe: electromagnetic force, gravitational force, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. But relying on these four forces alone cannot establish the unified field theory of the universe. According to the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics, people realize that the motion state of fundamental particles, wave-particle duality, is related to the observer's method of observation. From this, some individuals who are not scientists but may belong to the category of scientists who are non-scientists realize that consciousness is related to the movement of matter. Thus, some have tried to incorporate the force of consciousness into the unified field theory, although this still does not constitute a complete unified field theory. I will briefly discuss the unified field theory of the universe in the chapter of Preaching Tao. For now, I will provide proof from the perspective of time and space to demonstrate that two parallel lines will intersect at one point. First, it is necessary to clarify that the traditional concept of time is incorrect. The idea that time flows uniformly is not in accordance with reality. The belief that time is unidirectional is also not entirely correct because time is a recorder of the motion state of matter. Time arises from the movement of matter, and its speed is closely related to the speed and mode of matter's movement, as well as the space in which the matter exists. Therefore, time does not flow uniformly, but is constantly in motion and change. Furthermore, because matter can annihilate instantaneously, entering another space-time, it leads to the creation of lateral time. Hence, time does not only have a vertical property from past to future, but also a lateral property. Euclidean geometry is an abstraction of reality. To make two parallel lines intersect, we restore the abstraction to a concrete image and then observe whether they can intersect. Two parallel trains are an example of parallel lines. In a two-dimensional plane and three-dimensional space, they cannot intersect. They cannot collide with each other. If they collide, it no longer falls within the scope of the parallel line postulate. However, there is a scenario where this could happen. Two parallel speeding trains are suddenly drawn into a lateral space-time. Because the time they are drawn into differs by just 1 second, their trajectories change slightly, resulting in a collision. This is somewhat like two distant scenes intersecting due to the mirage phenomenon. Of course, this still doesn't fully explain Einstein's thinking. If Einstein were still alive, he would inevitably reach this conclusion. In the universe, there are no parallel straight lines that do not intersect or separate. Even if two parallel lines have the same mass and information, space has planes of intersection. At these spatial intersections, they can no longer run parallel. Moreover, as long as there is distance in space, the forces acting on the two parallel lines cannot be equal, and these forces will inevitably cause the trajectories of the two parallel straight lines to change, thus separating or intersecting. Two strangers sitting on parallel seats in a moving car constitute two parallel lines. A sudden car accident occurs. One person dies, the other survives. They do not intersect. The deceased is drawn into lateral space-time.